Hello, this is Stan from ComposiMold, and we're going to make some molds of this owl using used ComposiMold. We're going to first melt this ComposiMold in the microwave, and then we are going to make a duplicate of this little owl using ComposiMold and ComposiCast. To start, we're going to put a little bubble buster on the surface of this owl so that the surface tension is lower and the bubbles don't stick to the surface. ComposiMold takes about a minute or so to melt in the microwave, depending on how much you need to melt, and you pour that over your object that you're making a mold out of. This ComposiMold will take about an hour or so to cool, or I could put it in the refrigerator and cool it faster. Now you just want to remove the ComposiMold from the container that you use as your mold box and clean off the back of the surface of the mold. I'm going to use a kitchen knife to clean up the edges. I could have used scissors or any other knife to cut the surfaces. And I just need to cut it and start it, and then I can peel it away. There's ComposiMold on the back side of this mold because it was a magnet that I used as my original object. ComposiMold is a reusable mold making material. So with this same mold making material, I can make lots and lots of molds with the same material. As you saw at the beginning of this video, I had remelted this ComposiMold that I'd used for a different mold. Now don't waste that ComposiMold that you took off the back. That is remeltable and reusable. So just put that back in the container that you used and you can use it for your next mold. Notice that I'm pulling the ComposiMold away from the object that I had molded so that I put less pressure on it and less of a chance of it breaking. This owl is pretty strong, but if I was doing soft material like waxes or soaps or chocolates, then I would want to be more careful and pull the ComposiMold out and away from it so it's less damage to that material that I'm using. So now I'm just cleaning up the edges a little bit. All this ComposiMold that I'm taking off can be remelted, so save it. Now we are ready for our casting. We are using ComposiStone, which is a hard plaster cement mixture that creates a very strong casting. For this casting, I did not need to use a mold release, but I would typically suggest using a vegetable oil or a baby oil for a mold release. This does two things. One, it works as the mold release so that your object comes out of the mold faster and easier. And it also creates a nice, soft, pliable mold that'll last longer times after you put in something like ComposiStone or any plaster or cement into a mold, which will dry out the mold if you leave it over time. ComposiStone needs to be a thick mixture before pouring into your mold. This is almost perfect right here. ComposiStone will become hard after about 5 to 10 minutes, but will require about 24 to 48 hours before it becomes as hard as it's going to become. After I put the ComposiStone into the mold, I'm going to shake and bounce around the mold to fill up all the crevices. And to clean up the knife, just wipe off the ComposiStone before it hardens and it'll be all set to go. Now let the ComposiStone sit for about 10 to 15 minutes, and if you can press on the back without leaving an indentation, you are probably ready to remove it. I could leave it longer to make it even harder before I take it out. This was about 10 minutes. Now in a process similar to what I did for the owl the first time, I want to pull the ComposiMold out and away from the owl duplicate. And there we are, our ComposiStone owl. It looks like I'm missing just a touch on the nose. I think I'm going to try to patch that. So to patch that, I'm going to make a small little batch of ComposiStone. I'm going to use a toothpick to add a touch of ComposiStone onto the owl's beak. The ComposiStone, while soft, can be sanded and smoothed out with your finger. After the ComposiStone is completely cured, it's a little hard to machine or sand. So I want to do that before it becomes completely cured. So here's my little fix to the owl's beak. I can smooth that out a little bit more if I wanted to, but I believe it'll be perfectly fine after I paint this. Now after you have made a mold with ComposiStone, cement, plaster, or concrete, a little bit of vegetable oil or mold release will keep your mold soft and pliable. It also works as your mold release. Now I'm putting in some red ComposiStone into the owl mold to make a second duplicate. The process is the same, but this time I'm going to squeeze the mold a little bit just to make sure I get the owl's nose filled up with some ComposiStone. Now in this video, I'm showing ComposiStone being used for small objects that can be used for crafts or jewelry, but ComposiStone in ComposiMold can also be used for much larger objects. We have videos showing that as well. check out our YouTube channel or on our website. We get asked how many times you can reuse a certain mold with ComposiMold. And the answer is it depends a lot on the complexity of the mold. Something as simple as this owl shape can be duplicated dozens and dozens of times, probably 50 to 100 times before the mold gets worn out. More complex molds would not last as long as that. But remember, you can always remelt and remake the mold anytime that you'd like, either for the same object or for another object. So here's the red owl. I think I did a much better job of filling the owl's beak than I did the first time, so I don't need to fix that at all. And there's the comparison to the 3 that we have made so far. We're going to make one more using a charcoal ComposiStone. Now the ComposiStone that we're using here has already been colored, but ComposiStone can be painted using spray paints or acrylic paints. Typically you want to put a layer of primer on first and then you can paint any way you like. So here's the ComposiStone charcoal owl that we made, and comparing it to the other owls that we also duplicated using the same mold. Now the ComposiMold that I used to make this owl duplicate can be remelted and reused to make another shape. To do that, I want to clean up as much of the ComposiStone out of the mold as possible, and I can use a cold wet washcloth to wipe this ComposiStone out, and then I want to remelt this in the microwave. I can also melt the ComposiMold and pour it through a cheesecloth to get rid of any larger objects. So let me know what questions you have. Thank you so much for watching, and find out more at ComposiMold.com.